Chuka Umunna, I just wanted to ask you why it is you're supporting Small Business Saturday.
Well, I instigated bringing over the concept from the US to the UK. The US set up Small Business Saturday in 2010. It was American Express, it was their idea originally, and then it grew into a mass movement which went far beyond American Express since 2010. And I thought, look, it was a no-brainer to bring this here. It's a really simple concept. It's all about supporting our small businesses and recognising the contribution that they make to each of our communities. And it isn't just that our small businesses provide almost 2/3 of private sector jobs, but if you just think about your particular area, your village, your town, what makes that different and distinguishes it from other places, one of the things certainly is your small, independent, small businesses. And so I think we've got to do a lot more to celebrate what they do, particularly if we want to encourage more people to go down the entrepreneurship route. And that's what Small Business Saturday is all about. And last year, it ended up pushing almost £500 million worth of extra trade to our small businesses on the 7th of December 2013. And we are hoping to surpass that on December the 6th, this Small Business Saturday 2014.
And you've looked quite closely at the American example as well,
Yeah,
about how to support small and medium-sized businesses. And that's something, I guess, that you would like to introduce as a programme should you get into government.
That's right. So I spent quite a lot of time over there, particularly meeting with President Obama's economic team at the White House, but also the Small Business Administration. And we're here with the chair of the FSB, the Federation of Small Businesses in Norfolk. And one of the FSB's asks of whoever forms the next government is to set up a UK equivalent of the US Small Business Administration. That is something that we've committed to do. We're alone amongst the other major parties in committing to do that, because I think we do need an entity at the heart of government championing small businesses' interests.
And you talk about celebrating small businesses, and you mentioned one measure of supporting them. I mean, what else on a practical level?
Well, I think certainly from a government perspective, we've got to do something about business rates, which is why we've committed to cut them in 2015-16, then freeze them the year after. We've also got to make sure that small businesses, large customers, pay them on time. Too many are not doing so, and that's actually putting some of the small businesses out of business. So we're going to change the law to force large customers to pay their small business suppliers on time. We've got to end the scandal of late payment in our country. Our energy price freeze will hopefully, and is estimated to save your average small business £5,000 if we're elected and bring it into effect. What's often forgotten is that small businesses tend to consume like domestic residential customers but don't have the same protections. And we've also got to do something about the way our banking system serves our small businesses. There are too many successful, responsible businesses who can't get access to the finance that they need to grow. And that's why not only do we want to see more competition in the banking sector with at least 2 more challenger banks, but we have said we will set up a British investment bank and a network of local savings banks whose principal purpose will be to make sure our small businesses can get the money that they need.
Can I ask you a more general question as well about sort of business, and we've got an election coming next year in the business, but there are some suggestions that Labour is in danger of losing the support of businesses, perhaps. I mean, how would you respond to that kind of sort of criticism?
Well, I'd say 2 things. I mean, I was the person who instigated bringing Small Business Saturday here from the US, and we've seen the success it brings, and I don't think you could say a party with a shadow business secretary that instigated a campaign which, working with a coalition, pushed almost £500 million worth of extra business to our small business is not friendly towards business. But also the big issue, particularly for some of the larger businesses that trade globally, for them the big issue is our membership of the European Union. And they are desperate for us to remain members of the European Union, not only because it enables us to shape rules and regulations coming out of the European Union, which is our biggest market, but also because it's the key that unlocks the door to emerging market economies through the trade agreements we benefit from our membership of the European Union. The European Union is not perfect by any means, and it absolutely does need reform. But I think the best way that we can exercise power economically and politically, given that we're a great country, but we are a medium-sized country of 64 million people compared to, say, 1.3 billion people in China, I think the best way that we can exercise power to deliver better jobs and a better life for our people at home is working with other countries who are similar in their values, have a similar mindset and outlook as us. And those are essentially our, for all our differences, and we might speak different languages, but that is what our partners in the European Union are. And I think we're best equipped to take on the world, if you like, when working in concert with them, when we're sitting on one side of the table with 500 million other people negotiating with China, say, as I said, with their 1.3 billion people, than we are if we're just standing in a corner on our own. And look, we're a great country. I think we've got massive potential, and I'm actually quite optimistic for the future. We've got to make the right calls, we've got to invest where appropriate, and we've got to be open for business and have an open, outward-looking approach to the world.
But we've got a very febrile political atmosphere at the moment.
Absolutely,
2 by-elections,
yeah.
which UKIP have won.
Yeah.
That, what you're saying, I mean, many businesses, I imagine, would support what you're saying, but that could all be lost, couldn't it, in the noise?
Well, I think the important thing is that we win the arguments. I mean, UKIP campaign mainly on immigration. I want to, as I think most people, I want a fair and firm immigration policy where we count people in and out. You pay in before you take out anything from our benefit system, and we don't have undercutting our labour market. But I think it's a massive con to argue that all the problems that we've got in our country are down to Eastern European immigrants. I think that's a lie, and I think that's letting politicians in our country off the hook who've made mistakes over 3 or 4 decades and lumping the blame with someone else. Whereas actually, we can't blame, a small group of people in our country for all our problems. We've got to deal with them, and we've got to face up to where we've gone wrong and how we get it right, and make sure everybody's got a stake in the future. The easiest thing for me to do would be to go, oh, I agree with Nigel, but I wouldn't be being honest. I think that's a con. I think it's rubbish to say that all our problems are the fault. The reason that your wages are stagnating, NHS waiting lists are increasing, all of that stuff. I think that just lets politicians in the UK off the hook who've made mistakes in the past, and I think we've got to sort out our own problems.
Your leader's come in for a lot of criticism recently. Are you foursquare behind him?
Absolutely foursquare behind him, and I backed his leadership when he stood to become the leader of the Labour Party back in 2010. Look, I mean, Ed is a honest, decent, sincere, trustworthy guy who has deep beliefs, and I think whatever people say about him, that's one thing they commonly acknowledge are characteristics that he possesses, even our political opponents. And I don't think those are things that people attribute to most politicians, but I think they do want to see that in their leader, and in our leader I think we've got those kind of attributes.